Hey y'all, it's Michael, and today I'm here to talk to y'all about the books that I read in August. The first book that I kind of finished in August, well, like later days in July, was Sag Harbor by Colson Whitehead. This was a read along with Dee Dee from Brown Girl Reading. We actually did a live show, so go check it out. I'll link the information down below, but I loved it. This is my first Whitehead that I've read, and man, it made me want to read his other works because his writing was so great. The next book that I finished was for a book club for the book to movie film adaptation hosted by Adam from Memento Mori. Then that's The Children of Men by P.D. James. I'll link down his video down below. One of the things that I've come to realize myself is that I really enjoy Corazon's works. I love his Itu Mama También, his Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. I personally enjoyed it. And then, oh my god, his Gravity. His Gravity is so good. I love. Oh, I got a chance to watch that in IMAX 3D, and I was like, wow, this is how movies should be experienced. But yeah, I really did like the book. I gave it 3 stars out of 5. Now, in comparison to the movie, I think each one of them has their pros and cons. The antagonist in The Children of Men is, and the world building is better in the book, but in the movie, it has this. I think the movie has a better like point of view in regards where like it's very streamlined. This is a story of it's like a futuristic post-apocalyptic, this I guess you could say, where people aren't having children anymore, and we follow this one guy Theodore, and we follow what happens when shit goes down. But yeah, I really liked it, so I gave it 3 stars out of 5. I swear every time I do these, the ambulance always comes, I swear. The next book that I read was Binti by Ndidi Okorafor. This is an Afrofuturism book about Binti, who basically got like accepted into college, and takes she takes a bus, kind of like a bus, there to go to college, and it doesn't go according to plan. I really like the world building and descriptions because it was very visual in the way that Okorafor is able to describe everything, and it's so cool. Like, if anything, this book is like it's so cool. Just the descriptions alone and the world that it builds. Oh my god! I was like, oh yeah, this is so cool. Now, granted, I know it's a novella, but to me, it felt like a little bit just like point, and it goes at a really rapid speed, but in the end I did like it, and I would be interested to read the other novels. Hold on, let me text my mom. She said they're boarding now, they're going to London, so with that, let me have a safe trip. The next book that I read was Full Metal Alchemist, Full Metal Edition, Volume 1 by Hiromu Arakawa. Full Metal Alchemist is, I'm almost done with the anime. I've been saying that forever, but I'm almost done. I just haven't gotten around to it, but it is one of my favorite animes as of ever. Like I haven't finished it yet, but I can suffice it to say I loved it. This is about the Elric brothers who basically commits an ultimate sin because in this world they perform alchemy, and so you have an equivalent exchange because in the philosophy of alchemy you have to give up something for one thing. They do something that is unforgivable, and it's basically them trying to right their wrongs. But this story is actually more than that. The world that it builds, the storytelling capabilities is so fantastic. Just it's everything about it is so good. Now, in regards to Volume One, um, now me reading this, knowing how it's going to end, and like I can see all the nuances with it. Volume One isn't the best in my opinion. It's not also drawn the best. Panels are great and how it has like a smooth transition with the panels, but some of the character models during certain parts, like it looked really weird. It looked a tad bit askew, and it didn't look as detailed as like some of the other scenes that I have seen from future volumes. But the action scenes in this are so cool. It's paneled in a way that you can really visualizing the characters moving, even though it's like the still medium. It's so like fluid. Oh, and I love that you could see all of these little nuggets that she's planting, because later on in the story, you really get to see how these things will eventually like blow up. Which I love Fullmetal Alchemist. It's great. The next book that I read was A Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hainsberry. This is a reread for me. I love this play. I think it's fantastic. A Raisin in the Sun is about this family in like post World War II, uh, living in Chicago, and we basically follow them as Mama, who is waiting for this check to come in, and we see how within a couple of days, how this basically changes their lives. And this explores so many themes. I gave a lot of my thoughts on these books in my IG story for the 25 and 5 readathon. I'll link them down below, so if you want to check out like even more thoughts about them. What I love most about this is like the dialogue. It feels so organic. The next book that I read was The Good Son by Yu Jung Jung, translated from the Korean by Chi Young Kim. I also made another video about my book thoughts on this on my IGTV, so I'll link down below. I first heard of this by the Jimmy Fallon summer book club that he has, and this was one of the picks. The Children of Blood and Bone officially was the winner, but I decided to read this and I checked it out. Jung has been helmed as something like the Stephen King of Korea, and I can see that. I can see where it can get that comparison. But my main issue with this was the translation. So this is the story about Yu Jin, who basically wakes up and to like blood everywhere, and then he finds a body on the floor. Like it's so obvious who that body is. I mean, it's in the title of the book, but the story basically progresses as he tries to figure out what happened, like what's going on, and like you see how things unfold. There were parts in here where the rhythm of the book and some of the things were really weird. The writing style, I guess you could say, or the translation style, was so bizarre because it would do things that really annoyed me as a reader. Like it would constantly use the pronoun I as the subject, but it would do it like constantly. It would be like I something something something, I something something something, I something something. So it would be like subject verb, subject verb, subject verb, and it's like, we need to vary our sentence structure, okay? We need to vary our sentence structure. Now, granted, this is first person, but still, there are parts of the book where the way it's written, it like hinders the flow of the storytelling. And so that is like my main gripes about it. In story-wise, the thing was with like these amnesia type of stories, like we've experienced this all before, and I don't know. I don't know if I'm being jaded because I feel like I've seen it, like I've experienced it all before, like this thing about amnesia and then the person trying to figure out what happens, and at some point it's just like a little bit. But I'm not gonna lie, the conclusion and the ending was not that bad, and I don't think it's as worth it as the journey to get to it. That's a really good point. I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think the ending is. I don't think the journey to get to the true conclusion is worth it as the journey. I wouldn't say it's like shocking in that regard. I was just like, okay. It was literally just okay for me. I was like, okay. The next book that I read was Jazz by Toni Morrison. This was the next book in my year of Morrison. Now I will go more into details with this because I want to do a like Morrison trilogy review or my thoughts about it for Beloved, Jazz, and what I'm currently reading, which is Paradise. But suffice it to say, I love Jazz. I loved it. Oh my god, it was so good. I have more thoughts about it, but hear me out first though. Do not read Jazz if this is your first Toni Morrison. I can tell you straight flat out now, you won't like it at all. I think Jazz is what like. Okay, so hear me out. Hear me out on this. And since it's Bay Day, I recorded this on her birthday. We each person of the Beehive has a favorite album, right? But we can agree on a lot of things. Like in her best album, like her best body of work, this shows the most growth is Lemonade. Like the accumulation of all her past albums leads to Lemonade. But then each one of us have their own personal love of like separate albums. Some of us might like um, B Day. Some of us might like I Am Sasha Fierce. I personally love Four. I love Four. That is my favorite album personally from Beyonce. I love it. It's probably because it's her most pop wise, but it just has this like for me it evokes this time of like happiness and like just fun, and that's why I love it. But when people say like when they say they're different favorites, I can see that. In regards to Toni Morrison, I would have to say Jazz Beloved. Like we know why. I can see why Beloved won the Nobel Peace Prize, and why it gets all of these accolades because it's literally the height of what she has been leading up to, even up to like the Bluest Eye, Tar Baby, Book of Solomon before Beloved. You can really see this gradual increase of what Beloved will be at her top, and I see Jazz like kind of up there too because I think it's the accumulation of what she does best with like magical realism, but also what she does best with how she writes in that because you know, I don't like Morrison doesn't really write in like plot in that regard. You know what I'm saying? To me, when she writes, it's like for me, I get this. It's like she's like an evoker. Is that even a word? Like she evokes feelings when she writes. Like it's so hard to explain. It's like a reader thing where when I read her books, it evokes something different. Like I'm not reading it necessarily for plot in that regard, or like more than less in story. It's like this, like how she makes you feel in the way that she chooses her words. Like, oh my god, Beloved has this moment where I was just like, oh my god, it's so good. But I personally love Jazz, and that's why I gave it 5 stars because it's. Oh, I will talk more about it. That video will be long. It will be long, but I loved it. I wouldn't recommend it if this is your first Morrison. I would recommend this after you've read a couple of her works because you can kind of ease into this one. But I can also see why people don't like jazz. I can really see why people don't like jazz. The last book that I read was The Whole by Yu Young Pyun, translated from the Korean by Sora Kim Russell. This is the story about Ogi who basically got in a car accident with his wife, and his wife ended up dying, but he lived, and then he is paralyzed from his whole body's paralyzed, like he can't move at all. And this is basically like a look at someone who like can't communicate essentially to the world, and it's kind of like almost psychologically thriller esque. Um, this, like, I. It's one of those books where I see the deeper meanings of what Pyun is presenting. It haven't. I'm not even gonna spoil anything, but it even does a really cool thing with the like the chapters. It's really cool. It's like, oh, gotcha. I thought that was really cool. First off, let me talk about translation. You know what? The sentences were definitely more varied than, like, say, The Good Son than anything. But there were parts where the rhythm, again, it's this rhythm. It's something about these translated works. Something about the rhythm. It felt off during some parts where that rhythm felt like it really hindered the storytelling. And it really took me out of the reading. With the story-wise, Ogi is a really interesting character because he's once you find out everything, it kind of makes sense on why things are the way they are. And there is like the intrigue with his mother-in-law and then like his wife, like what really happened, is really interesting. I don't know. I gave it 2 stars out of 5 on Goodreads. I think it's more like a 2.5 than anything, because I wouldn't say it was one of those books where it was like exciting to read. Like it didn't have this like this grasp like to want to read it. It just I was just like, okay, and it's really short. So in a short amount of time, it does like really present the story in a way where it's like, there you go. but I just was never like hyped up about it. And in the end, I thought I was like, okay. And I think it's for me that that rhythm that the translation presents, and some of the character development thing was like okay, and some of these characters were like kind of unpleasant to read about, and I was like, okay, so yeah, there's that. So I had a great reading month in August, and I'm hoping to have a really great reading month in September. So if you read any of those books, let me know what you think about it. Until then, I'll see you guys till next time. Bye.